I was born with a soul that wanted to crawl into a hole. They called that. I suffered from social anxiety. But then the Blackwood family, the billionaire I had been stolen from at birth, found me. And that was when Serafina, the fake daughter, decided to turn my existence into a psychological thriller. Does Iris hate me? She'd sobbed in her silk handkerchief. I just want to say good morning. And she called me a filthy little parasite. My older brother, Hudson, would slam his fist on the table. How dare she bring that gutter language into this house? Come on, Serafina. We're going to have a word with her right now. That's when the butler would cough politely. Sir, Miss Iris said the daylight is too loud and refused to leave the car until midnight. She hasn't even stepped inside the gates yet. We're picking her up in 3 hours. 3 days later, Serafina tried again. Hudson, she hired some local thugs to jump me. After school, I shrank into the corner of the velvet sofa, my voice barely a whisper. I haven't actually enrolled in classes yet. I haven't left this room. Later, she came running in hysterical, claiming I tried to run her over with my car. Before she could even get to the climax of her lie, the housekeeper burst in. Ma'am, Hudson, Miss Iris hasn't opened her bedroom door in an entire week. Should we call the paramedics? The air in the living room froze. Serafina stood there, mouth agape, her rehearsed script dying in her throat. Eventually, Hudson, convinced that the only way to save me was to force me into the world, found me a good man. I'll do the arranged marriage, I stammered. But is it okay if I don't show up to the wedding? The moment I stepped through the front doors of the Blackwood estate, Serafina looked like she had seen a ghost. Her jaw dropped, her body turning to stone. Terrified by the sudden spotlight of her attention, I ducked behind my father, Richard. He looked at her confused. Serafina, what's with that face? You look like you've been struck by lightning. As if a switch had been flipped, the shock melted into a waterfall of tears. Dad, Iris hates me already. Why else would she wait until the middle of the night to come home? She clearly didn't want to see my face. Voice thick with fake martyrdom. I'll go pack my bags. I won't stay where I'm an eyesore to your real daughter. My mother, Eleanor, rushed to her side, pulling her into a protective embrace. What are you saying? You're my daughter, too. In this house, no one is kicking you out. Not on my watch. Then Eleanor turned her gaze on me. It was cold, sharp, and heavy with warning. I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't being malicious. I was just terrified of the sun and the people who lived under it. I opened my mouth several times. Okay, I finally managed. Eleanor's face contorted. Okay, that's it. Are you dismissing me? Who taught you such insolence? Richard stepped in, his voice weary. Eleanor, honey, it's not that. Our daughter has severe social anxiety. It's not that she won't talk. It's a sickness. Fire in Eleanor's eyes flickered toward guilt for a split second, but Serafina was faster. She wiped her eyes, muttering just loud enough for everyone to hear. Social anxiety, is that even a real thing? If she wanted to play the fragile card to get me kicked out, she should have at least Googled insomnia or depression. It's more believable. Eleanor's guilt vanished, replaced by a hardened sneer. I told you no one is taking Serafina away from me, not even my biological daughter. I lowered my head, staring at the polished marble floor. I couldn't look at her. Since you're so terrified of people, Eleanor continued, we'll just cancel the ball we planned for you. Serafina's eyes lit up with a predatory triumph. She looked at me, expecting to see me crushed, but instead she caught the spark of pure, unadulterated joy in my eyes. Thank God I didn't have to be paraded around like a prize pony in front of hundreds of strangers. A gala sounded like a medieval torture chamber to me. Serafina's eyebrows knitted together. She looked genuinely baffled. The next morning I was jolted awake by a violent pounding on my door. Serafina was there, scratching at her arms frantically, her face blotchy and tear-stained. Iris brought me breakfast this morning, Serafina sobbed. I thought she was finally accepting me. But the moment I ate it, I started breaking out. She knows I'm deathly allergic. Eleanor's hand swung through the air, aimed right for my face. Because I was already half hidden behind the door, my instinct took over. I slammed the door shut. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the hallway. My hand. Eleanor clutched her bruised fingers, her face purple with rage. You heartless little bitch. First you try to kill Serafina, and now you assault your own mother. You are a monster. My heart was hammering. I didn't give her breakfast, I stammered through the wood. I just woke. I haven't even left my room. I didn't even know she had an allergy. Eleanor glared at the door, as if she could burn a hole through it. If it wasn't you, then who? Who else in this house has a reason to be jealous of her? Iris. Allergies can be fatal. You tried to commit murder. My brain was spinning. That's when Hudson, my brother, spoke up. I don't think it was Iris. He looked at the door, then back at Serafina. Think about it. Iris has social anxiety. Buying breakfast requires talking to people. Buying specific cheap shrimp requires even more interaction. A person with her condition wouldn't suddenly become a social butterfly just to play a prank. Panic flashed across Serafina's face. She gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Hudson, are you saying you don't believe me? Mom said no one else hates me. If it wasn't her, are you saying I did this to myself? Hudson immediately folded, pulling her into a hug. Serafina, don't say that. You're my favorite sister. No one can ever replace you, okay? Serafina pouted, leaning into his chest. I guess. Her eyes darted around, landing on the door again. But is social anxiety even a real medical thing? Or is it just a TikTok trend? Is it that easy? You just act scared, and suddenly you're immune to consequences? Hudson turned back toward my door, his expression hardening. Is that it? Are you faking this whole scared girl act just to get attention? That is pathetic, Iris. Total twisted. Usually I could tune out insults directed at me. I was used to being the weird kid. But when he brought my foster parents into it, the people who had actually loved me, who had kept me safe, I felt a spark of something hotter than fear. I peeked through the crack of the door. My eyes narrowed. Don't you dare talk about my parents like that, you arrogant prick. Who are you calling your parents? Hudson's voice rose to a roar. Your parents are standing right here. Not only are you malicious, you're ungrateful. No wonder they were so quick to ship you back to us. They probably sent you here to grift us, for every cent of the inheritance. My face went hot. My heart rate spiked into the red zone. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but my tongue felt like lead. The sheer weight of the emotion trapped in my chest was too much. The world tilted. I collapsed onto the floor with a heavy thud. Hudson froze.
Mom.
Oh God, I think I just killed my sister. Hudson stood by the bed, looking like a kicked puppy as the doctor finished his exam. I just yelled at her a little bit. How does someone just drop dead from words? Is she faking? Is this a trap to make me look like a villain? The family doctor sighed, packing his stethoscope. It's a severe psychosomatic response. Her nervous system was overloaded by the stress. Fainting was a literal system crash to protect her brain. You cannot trigger her like that. The doctor looked Hudson dead in the eye. No shouting, no insults. If you keep pushing her toward a mental breakdown, her heart might not handle the next crash. Hudson's face turned a muddy shade of gray, his voice strained and unnaturally polite. Regardless of why you passed out, Serafina is the one suffering from an allergy. Would you mind apologizing to her as a favor to me? From that day on, Hudson treated me like I was made of spun glass. His newfound caution only fueled Serafina's rage. A few days later, she came sprinting into the villa, drenched and shivering, throwing herself into Eleanor's arms. What happened? Eleanor cried, grabbing a towel. Serafina sobbed hysterically, shaking her head. Don't ask, Mom, please. It was my fault. I shouldn't have been near the water. After 10 minutes of forced questioning, Serafina finally broke. Iris pushed me into the pool, Mom. You know I can't swim. I almost drowned. I thought I was never going to see you again. Eleanor's face contorted into a mask of fury. She pointed a finger at me, you little piece of. Before the slur could leave her lips, Hudson lunged forward and clamped his hand over her mouth. Mom, keep it down, he hissed. Do you want her to drop dead right here? You heard the doctor. Eleanor was turning purple, her chest heaving, but she didn't dare make a sound. Hudson looked at me, his eyes twitching. Iris, honey, could you please refrain from attempted homicide if it's not too much trouble? Serafina was sweating now. She bit her lip and whispered. The doctor said no verbal triggers. He didn't say we couldn't use other punishments. She quickly covered her mouth. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. Eleanor's eyes snapped toward me, gleaming with a cruel epiphany. You're right. I have plenty of ways to handle this. She leaned in, her voice a cold, sharp whisper. Iris, starting today, your things are being moved to the attic. I'm locking the door. No one is to give you food, and you are not to leave that room. If you want to play deadly games with Serafina, let's see how you feel when you're facing the brink of starvation. Maybe a little hunger will clear your head. Serafina's face lit up. I'll show her the way. I want to help her reflect on her actions. She dragged me up to the dusty, cramped attic. I hope you like it here, sis. It's a bit of a step down from your suite, isn't it? I looked around the attic. My pulse, for the first time in weeks, slowed down. It was isolated. Windows were small and high. No one would knock. No one would stare at me. Serafina was waiting for a breakdown. When she saw the look of genuine relief on my face, her insults died in her throat. The heavy iron bolt slid into place outside the door. I turned and flopped onto the small cot. Was this supposed to be suffering? Compared to the trailer I'd lived in with my foster mom during the lean years, this attic was like a boutique hotel. I waited until the footsteps faded. Then I reached into the hidden pockets of my oversized coat. I pulled out a stash of granola bars, beef jerky, and dried mango. Socially anxious people are by nature doomsday preppers. We always assume the worst is about to happen, so we pack accordingly. To me, a hoard of snacks is better than a bank account. I pulled out a fully charged power bank, grabbed my snacks, and crawled into the giant wardrobe. The darkness felt like a warm hug. The only downside was the lack of a toothbrush, but I could live with that for a few days. 3 days later, Hudson couldn't take it anymore. Mom, enough. She's sick. You can't starve a person with a mental illness. She's your daughter, for God's sake. Eleanor sipped her tea. Her expression was bored. Relax. I did my research. A person can survive 3 days without food. She's fine. She gestured to the butler, Arthur. Has the girl learned her lesson? Arthur took a deep breath, his face pale. Ma'am, I think that she has turned into a feral animal. Arthur swallowed. Ma'am, Miss Iris has stopped responding. Eleanor set down her teacup. What do you mean, stop responding? I knocked yesterday. Nothing. I knocked again this morning. Still nothing. Serafina immediately looked delighted. She probably fainted from hunger. Hudson shot her a look. That's not funny. I wasn't joking. Eleanor sighed. Open the door. Arthur hesitated. There's a problem. What? The bolt is on the outside. Eleanor frowned. And, we can't get the key. What do you mean you can't get the key? Arthur lowered his voice. Miss Iris took it. The room went silent. Hudson stood. She took the attic key? Arthur nodded. I found it missing from the hook 3 days ago. I assumed Miss Serafina had taken it. Serafina's face changed. Why would Iris need a key if she was locked inside? Arthur looked uncomfortable. That's exactly what concerns me. They rushed upstairs. Eleanor unlocked the outer latch with a spare key. The door swung open. Empty. The cot was untouched. The snacks were gone. The wardrobe stood open. Hudson stared. She escaped? Arthur pointed upward. Perhaps. Hudson followed his finger. A tiny attic window was open. It was barely large enough for a child. Serafina laughed nervously. She couldn't fit through that. Hudson didn't answer, because there was something else on the floor. A piece of paper. Eleanor picked it up. 3 words were written across it. Thank you, Her face strained. What does that mean? Arthur slowly looked toward the staircase. I think Miss Iris wanted to leave. Hudson grabbed his phone. Call the police. Serafina's eyes widened. No. Everyone turned toward her. She immediately covered her mouth. I mean, she's probably somewhere nearby. Calling the police would make everything worse. Hudson narrowed his eyes. Why? Serafina's voice faltered. I just think we should look for her ourselves. Hudson stepped closer. Why are you so scared of the police? I'm not. You are. Serafina backed away. Then Hudson noticed something. A scratch on her wrist. 3 thin red lines. He remembered the allergy incident, the breakfast, the pool, the accusations. And now Iris was gone. His stomach tightened. Serafina. She froze. Where were you 3 days ago? I was here. No. Specifically, where? I don't remember. Hudson's expression changed. You were outside the attic. Serafina's lips parted. You told me you were going to teach Iris a lesson. I was angry. What did you do? Nothing. Her voice cracked. Eleanor stepped between them. Hudson, stop interrogating your sister. But Hudson wasn't listening. He looked into the attic again. Something was bothering him. Then he noticed the dust. There were footprints leading toward the window, but they weren't Iris's. They were small, barely visible, and they stopped beside a loose floorboard. Hudson crouched. He lifted it. Underneath was a narrow service passage. Arthur's face went white. The old servants' corridor. Hudson climbed inside. The passage led behind the walls of the estate. And 20 minutes later, he emerged in the kitchen. The kitchen staff gasped. Hudson ignored them. Has anyone seen Iris? One of the cooks slowly raised her hand. Yesterday. Where? She came here. Hudson's heart jumped. What did she say? The cook smiled awkwardly. She didn't say anything. Then how do you know it was her? She pointed. To what? The woman pointed toward the pantry. Hudson opened it. Inside sat a small cardboard box. His name was written on top. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were dozens of things. Photographs, receipts, medical records, and printed copies of every accusation Serafina had made against Iris. There was even a tiny voice recorder. Hudson pressed play. Serafina's voice filled the pantry. Iris pushed me. Another recording. Iris poisoned me. Another. Iris tried to drown me. Hudson's face hardened. Then came the final recording. Serafina's voice was laughing. She won't fight back. She's too scared. A second voice asked, and if she does? Serafina answered casually. She'll be blamed anyway. Hudson stopped breathing. Behind him, Eleanor whispered, turn it off. He slowly turned. She was standing there, and Serafina was beside her. Serafina's face had gone completely white. Hudson stared at her. You recorded yourself. I didn't. You hired those men. No. You poisoned yourself. No. You staged the pool incident. Serafina started crying. I was scared. Hudson laughed once. There was nothing warm in it. You were scared. She rushed toward him. You're my brother. He stepped backward. Don't touch me. Her face crumpled. Eleanor grabbed his arm. Hudson, she's still your sister. He looked at her. So is Iris. Eleanor went still. Hudson held up the recorder. And we've spent weeks punishing the wrong daughter. Then the front doors exploded open. Everyone turned. Richard entered with 2 detectives. Behind him stood Iris. Her oversized coat was dirty. Her hair was tangled. She was holding a paper bag. Hudson stared at her. Iris. She looked at him. Her eyes immediately darted toward the floor. Her fingers tightened around the bag. Richard rushed toward her. Where have you been? Iris whispered. Outside. Outside where? She pointed toward the driveway. Everyone looked. A black SUV was parked beyond the gates. Richard's face changed. Who brought you back? Iris swallowed. My foster parents. Hudson blinked. They're here? Iris nodded. They found out you locked me in the attic. Eleanor's face went pale. Why would you tell them? Iris looked at her. For once, she didn't look down. Because they're my parents. That single sentence destroyed whatever was left of Eleanor's certainty. Then Iris held out the paper bag. I brought your things. Hudson frowned. My things? Your favorite snacks. She looked genuinely confused. You said you liked them. Hudson stared at the bag. After everything he had said to her, she had still remembered his favorite snacks. His eyes reddened. Iris. She took one step backward. I don't want to live here anymore. Richard's face tightened. You don't have to. Serafina suddenly screamed. You can't leave. Everyone turned. She was crying uncontrollably. You can't leave me here alone. Iris stared at her. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. It was small, almost shy, but it was the first real smile anyone in the Blackwood family had ever seen from her. I'm not leaving you alone. Serafina stopped crying. Iris pointed toward the detectives. They're staying. The detectives stepped forward. One of them held up handcuffs. Serafina's face collapsed. And for the first time since Iris had entered the Blackwood family, nobody was looking at Iris like she was the problem. They were looking at Serafina. And Iris? She was already walking toward the car. Her foster mother opened the passenger door. Iris climbed inside, curled up beneath a blanket, and immediately pulled out a granola bar. Her foster father glanced at her. Rough week. Iris nodded. Very. He smiled. Want to go home? Iris looked through the window at the enormous Blackwood estate. Then she took another bite. Please. The car drove away. Behind them, Serafina was screaming. And Iris discovered something wonderful. The world outside her bedroom was terrifying. But sometimes, leaving was easier than staying. 3 days after I left the Blackwood estate, I received a message from Hudson. Iris, please come back. We need to talk. I stared at it. Then I deleted it. My foster father glanced over. Bad news. Family. He nodded sympathetically. Worse. I almost laughed. I had barely started enjoying my peaceful life when someone knocked on the door. My foster mother opened it. A delivery man stood outside holding a bouquet. For Iris Blackwood. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone my new address. I didn't touch the flowers. My foster father took them outside and threw them into the trash. Then his expression changed. There was a tiny tracking device hidden inside the wrapping. That evening, we went to the police. The next morning, Serafina was arrested. Apparently, she'd hired someone to follow me. Her explanation? I only wanted to know where my sister was. Nobody believed her. But that wasn't the end. 2 nights later, I woke up to a strange sound. A soft scrape. My bedroom window. I froze. Then, the curtains moved. Someone was outside. I reached for the emergency alarm beside my bed. The window shattered. A gloved hand reached inside. I screamed. My foster father burst through the door carrying a baseball bat. The intruder immediately fled. Police arrived within minutes. They found footprints leading into the woods. And a photograph on my windowsill. It was a picture of me sleeping. Taken that same night. I couldn't breathe. Someone had been watching me. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. A distorted voice whispered. You should have stayed with your real family. The call ended. The police traced the number. It belonged to a prepaid phone purchase that afternoon. And the person who bought it? Serafina's personal driver. But Serafina was already in custody, which meant someone else was helping her. The next day, Hudson showed up at the police station. He looked exhausted. Iris, please. I stayed behind my foster father's shoulder. What? I found something. He handed me a folder. Inside were financial records. Thousands of dollars had been transferred from Serafina's account to different people over the past year. Private investigators, drivers, security contractors, even the men who had attacked me outside school. Hudson swallowed. She wasn't improvising. She planned everything. I looked at the records. How long? Since before you came home. That made my stomach twist. Then Hudson said something worse. She knew you were coming back. I looked up. How? He hesitated. Because someone inside our family told her. Before I could ask who, my foster mother came running into the room. Iris. Her face was terrified. Your foster father is missing. Everything inside me went cold. We rushed home. His car was still in the driveway. His phone was on the kitchen counter. And on the table sat another photograph. This time it showed my foster father tied to a chair. Written across the bottom were 6 words. Bring Iris back to the Blackwood estate. Hudson stared at the photograph. Iris, don't go. I looked at him, then at the picture. My hands stopped shaking. I picked up my coat. I am going. Hudson grabbed my wrist. No. I pulled free. You don't understand. My voice was still quiet. But I wasn't afraid anymore. They took the wrong person. Hudson frowned. What does that mean? I looked toward the Blackwood estate in the distance. They wanted the scared girl who hides in closets. I zipped my coat. She isn't here anymore. That night, I returned to the Blackwood estate. And Serafina was waiting for me. Except she wasn't alone. Beside her stood Eleanor, Richard, and a man I'd never seen before. The moment I walked through the door, the man smiled. Welcome home, Iris. I stared at him. Then I recognized his face. He was the doctor who had treated me after I fainted. My foster father had warned me about him once. He wasn't a family doctor. He was a psychiatrist hired by Serafina. And suddenly everything made sense. The fainting, the accusations, the constant pressure. They hadn't wanted to make me leave. They wanted to make me look insane. The doctor stepped closer. You've been under tremendous psychological stress. I smiled. Funny. His smile faded. What's funny? I brought someone. The front doors opened. 6 police officers entered. Behind them came my foster father. Alive. Serafina screamed. What? My foster father smiled. I was never kidnapped. The color drained from her face. He had been working with the police the entire time. The photograph had been staged. The phone calls had been recorded. And every payment Serafina made had been tracked. Hudson looked at me in shock. You planned all this? I shrugged. I learned something. What? I looked at Serafina. If everyone thinks you're helpless, let them. Serafina's face twisted with fury. You little. She stopped. Because she remembered. The doctor. The fainting. The rules. She couldn't scream at me anymore. I smiled. Go ahead. She stared at me. Say it. Her fists clenched. You're enjoying this. I tilted my head. A little. The police stepped forward. Serafina backed away. Then she suddenly laughed. You think you've won? Everyone froze. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a second phone. I made one call before you arrived. She pressed a button. A voice came through the speaker. Hudson's face went white. It was Richard, but the recording wasn't recent. It was from years ago. And his words were unmistakable. Find the biological child. I don't care what happens to her foster family. I looked at Richard. He couldn't meet my eyes. My smile disappeared. Because Serafina wasn't the mastermind. She had only been following instructions. And the person who had ordered me found was my own father. Richard's face went white. I stared at him. You ordered them to find me? He couldn't answer. Serafina laughed through her tears. That's right. Dad knew exactly where you were. Hudson turned on him. Dad. Richard finally confessed. Years ago, he discovered that the hospital had switched 2 newborns. But instead of bringing me home immediately, he investigated. He discovered the other child was Serafina. Then he made a decision. He kept both. He wanted a perfect heir and a perfect daughter. When the truth threatened to destroy his family, he buried it. But someone else knew. My foster father. And when he threatened to expose Richard, Richard arranged for him to disappear. I stared at Richard. You ruined my entire childhood. His eyes filled with tears. I was trying to protect the family. I laughed. You mean Serafina? Serafina suddenly lunged toward me. Iris. 2 officers grabbed her. She screamed and kicked wildly. You stole everything from me. I looked at her. No. I stepped closer. You were handed everything. Then I turned toward Richard. And you stole everything from me. The police arrested all 3 of them. Eleanor collapsed when she realized she'd spent weeks abusing the daughter she had actually given birth to. Hudson tried apologizing. I stopped him. You don't get to apologize your way back into my life. He cried. I left anyway. 6 months later, the Blackwood family name was everywhere. Richard was facing charges for the kidnapping and intimidation of my foster father. Serafina was charged for the attacks, stalking, fraud, and the staged kidnapping. Eleanor divorced Richard and disappeared from public life. Hudson testified against them. Then he sent me one final message. I hope someday you can forgive me. I deleted it. I didn't hate him. I simply didn't need him. My inheritance was placed in a trust. I bought a quiet little house far from the city. No galas. No family dinners. No fake sisters. Just me, my foster parents, 3 cats, and an aggressively stocked pantry. I still hated crowds. I still preferred dark rooms. I still sometimes spent entire weekends hiding under blankets. But now, nobody could force me out. One afternoon, I received a letter. There was no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Richard, Serafina, Eleanor, and Hudson stood together. Taken inside prison visitation. On the back, someone had written, "You ruined our family." I stared at it for a moment. Then, I tossed it into the fireplace. Sounds like a dumb problem. My foster mother laughed. I smiled. For the first time, my little dark room didn't feel like somewhere I was hiding. It felt like home. 2 years later, the Blackwood estate was sold. The mansion that had once been filled with screaming, accusations, and slammed doors became a luxury hotel. I saw the announcement online while eating cereal in my pajamas. I nearly choked laughing. My foster mother looked over. What? The Blackwood mansion is a hotel now. Are you going? I stared at her. Absolutely not. She laughed. My life had become wonderfully boring. I worked from home, ordered groceries online, avoided unnecessary phone calls, and had perfected the art of pretending I wasn't home whenever someone knocked. My social anxiety hadn't magically disappeared. I still hated crowds. I still panicked when strangers spoke to me unexpectedly. But I had learned something important. Being afraid didn't mean I was weak. I could be terrified and still make decisions. I could shake and still say no. I could hide in my closet for 3 hours and then walk out when I was ready. And I never again allowed someone to use my fear as permission to control me. Then one afternoon, Hudson appeared outside my house. I watched him through the security camera. He stood there holding a small box. I almost ignored him. Then he placed the box on the porch and walked away. Curiosity won. I waited 20 minutes before retrieving it. Inside was my old bedroom key from the Blackwood estate. Beneath it was a note. I finally understand. You weren't difficult. We made you feel unsafe. I stared at the words. Then I put the key in the trash. The note went beside it. Some doors deserve to stay locked. That evening, I sat on the porch with my foster parents. My father handed me a plate of cookies. Anything interesting happened today? I thought about Hudson, about Richard, about Serafina, about the family that had once made me feel like an unwanted intruder in my own life. Then I looked at the people sitting beside me. Nope. I took a cookie. Perfect day. And it was. Because I had finally stopped waiting for the Blackwoods to decide what happened to me. They weren't my family anymore. They were just people from a terrible chapter. And chapters end. The end.